We have with us here in studio Ronald Chagoury, is the Vice Chairman of Eko Atlantic. Very interesting conversations you've had so far. What do you think about the forum so far?
So far, I think it's a great forum. It's a great space to meet with a lot of key stakeholders on the continent in one go, which is very difficult to do usually when we're in one location like Nigeria, for example, and we're talking about 50 countries in Africa, and key stakeholders that could be in the Middle East, in Europe, in the US, or in Asia. So this forum really simplifies the process of meeting and getting in touch with all these different stakeholders.
I'm sure the organizers will be happy to hear that. But of course, you have come to do business here. Exactly how do you plan on leveraging this forum to do business?
So first of all is building relationships with different groups, different entities. We get to learn also from experiences of different companies that are working on the continent, listen to different experiences from different countries of the continent, and it's all a learning experience for us as well. And we get to share our own experience as well, which also hopefully helps other members of the forum.
All right, so it's been quite a bit now for the Eko Atlantic city. Very huge traction when it came on board and all that. So give us a progress report on where it is right now and what's the next level you're trying to get to.
So up to date, we completed a very good section of the reclamation of the city. Most roads of the first half of the city and infrastructure are already in place. 13 bridges have been built so far. The first residents have moved in the first residential buildings. The first office tenants have also moved in, and there are quite a few other buildings under construction or planned for construction in the city.
So, I mean, a number of South African companies and investors, if you allow me to bring that viewpoint, that have done business in Nigeria has been burnt. And right now we've got one of Africa's biggest telecoms operator, MTN, that is in a bit of a tussle with the government there in Nigeria. There's perceptions from this end that perhaps the ease of doing a business in Nigeria is not so favorable for foreign investors. The regulatory environment is too high, and it's just too much of a risk. As a man who operates on the ground there in Nigeria, what is your experience of doing business?
So our family has been in Nigeria for many decades so far. It is a long-term play. It is not a short-term play, and when we look at it on a short term, we could see a certain level of risk. But once we extend it over time and we get to learn how to operate in the country, we understand the ins and outs, we understand the challenges, we understand the opportunities, then medium term to long term, that's when we actually really start reaping the benefits of investing in Nigeria, working in Nigeria. There's a lot of that perception. The word is perception.
Is it a perception though, or is it reality?
I mean, there is a certain level of reality when we look at the short-term play, but it is a huge market. It's a very, very fast-growing market. We're talking about 200 million people today. We're talking about 300 million people in a few years, and by the end of the century, we're looking at 1 billion people in Nigeria. It's a huge market, and it's a shame not to invest today on its very early days.
Your family has been in business in Nigeria for a bit. I'd like you to speak to the potential you see of that market, because we understand that, and how your family has been able to navigate, with the challenges.
So, I mean, we faced a few crises along the way, like most countries in the world. The crisis cycle is not as short as other places in the world. So yes, if we look at, for example, the past few years, we did go through an economic crisis. But the last major economic crisis we had was 30 years before that. And that's a long cycle. So yes, this cycle was let's say, a bit longer than expected. We're coming out of it.
Sure.
But at least in Nigeria, we tighten our belts, we face the challenges, and we become even more efficient in our operations.
Stay there for the long term, as you have said.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for your time. We're going to have to leave it there.